Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and welcome to a special edition of Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And I'm here today to talk to you about Lilo and Stitch, the live action 2025 movie. Yes, I know it is not Asian and Pacific Islander like historic month and everything. I know that was a couple months ago, but Disney Plus put this movie out on here on their typical late time, and so I'm just now getting to it. I'm just now watching it. So it is what it is. Plus, it's my channel, so I can talk about it whenever I feel like it. And so I finally got to watch the live action Lilo and Stitch movie. I'm a huge fan of the original animated movie and the animated movie only. I've seen the other animated movies and I've just never been a fan of those. I think I tried to watch the television show, maybe, I'm not sure, but I wasn't really into that either. The little rabbit thing just got on my nerves. Hamsterville or whatever his name is, and also that yellow experiment who like makes sandwiches and crap. I can't stand those two. So I've never really been into the television show, and I gave up on it very, very, very early. I think I might have watched some of the crossovers because I like Kim Possible. I need to watch the Recess crossover. Like, it doesn't make no sense for Lilo and Stitch to cross over all these characters in Disney and stuff, but hey, whatever, you know? And so I do plan on rewatching the animated movies and the television show just because I want to see if I have a different opinion about it and stuff. And so I was very curious about this movie, even though a lot of people really hate this movie and stuff. And because I'm late to the ball game and everything, what I'm about to say is very similar to what other people are saying. I mean, I can't help that. It's not me copying them. It's just, I see the facts for what it is because I'm a huge fan of the original and stuff. So I noticed certain changes and this and that. And it's hard to sound repetitive, but that's just how it is, you know what I'm saying? But I do have my own opinions and stuff like that. And especially one thing I never mentioned about the animated movie when I reviewed that a long time ago, I think a year ago. And that is when it comes to Lilo and Stitch, the animated movie, and I'm only going to base this off of the original animated movie. I'm not going to compare it to any of the other projects and stuff. So not the series, not the other animated movies, not the international stuff like the Japanese, Chinese one, and the other one and stuff. To me, Lilo and Stitch was always kind of like Frankenstein's monster. This monster created by a mad scientist, and the monster started to develop, a persona, emotions, and it grew past its creation concept. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of how Stitch is. Sadly, however, the live action movie doesn't really capture that. It does that, but it doesn't really give you an explanation as to why Stitch feels the way he does, why Stitch feels like an individual, why he gave himself a name, and all this other stuff. And that's because Disney, they took a really important element, well, two important elements from the original animated movie. Something that helped Stitch become the person that he is. One is the task of rehabilitating him and trying to teach him how to be a model citizen. And two, the ugly duckling scene and everything. And the whole importance of like family and him being lost and who is he and everything, you don't get that feeling in this movie because you don't get those scenes and you don't get those questions. They threw certain elements in only because it was in the animated movie, but it doesn't make sense for the live action movie and stuff. I'll get into that a whole lot more, and I get into like the Stitch persona and everything in the character bios. Now, how exactly did I feel about this movie, being a huge fan of the original, being upset that they took certain scenes out and changed certain things around and, and stuff like that? I think it's an okay movie. I think it's cute. I think it's funny in certain scenes. It's not great. It's not perfect, but it's not as horrible as everybody says because of one reason and one reason only. Because I've watched the animated movie a million times and everything, I noticed something about this movie. This movie is about 60 or 70% accurate. It's just been reworked and restructured and everything. Certain scenes that happened in the original movie have now been reworked with different characters portraying certain aspects of those movies. Instead of getting the ducks and like the family of ducks, now we get a family of frogs. It's not a family of ducks, but it's still a family of an aquatic type animal, nevertheless. When we get the scene of the hammock with Nani and Lilo and everything, we still get that. But now they're not on the same hammock. They're like separated for some reason. Still, it's different, but it's still taking elements from that. The scene where Lilo is supposed to rehabilitate Stitch and teach him about this and that and all this other stuff, that scene has been removed, but instead she teaches him about family and pictures of her and her family and stuff. Different, just restructured to be the same. So it is very much an adaptation. It's not a beat by beat adaptation like, say, the Lion King live action movie. Instead, they took the gist and the elements from the animated movie and just reworked them to make their own movie. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. When it comes to that, you're never gonna make nobody happy. I've said that before. If you have a live action adaptation from like a animated source or like a book or something, some people want it beat by beat and other people want it to be completely different. And some people want a mashup of both. So you're never going to make no one person happy because they're always going to want one thing or another. Personally, I would have preferred a beat by beat of the story. But for the most part, this is good enough. It's not great, but it is good enough. Now, will I ever own this on DVD? No. Will I ever watch this again? Maybe far into the future if I'm ever bored. Because for the most part, like I said, it wasn't that bad. It's just irritating and everything. That's what this movie is. It's irritating because Disney just changed so much stuff and didn't keep the important elements. One element I'm extremely furious about is where is the range of emotion and anger at? One thing I noticed very early on in this movie is that this movie really doesn't want to show violence whatsoever. It kind of skirts away from that and makes it kind of fluffy and everything. I mean, the portal gun, for crying out loud. Jumba is supposed to have a laser gun, not a portal gun, and not darts and everything. Like, because they didn't really want to show that much violence. Also, him and Stitch get into a bit of like a fight towards the end of the movie in the animated movie. Here is mostly just them using the portal gun. The blaster is supposed to overload and they're playing hot potato with it and everything. In the animated movie, here they don't do that. What else? Like, Stitch is supposed to be basically the Terminator and everything. He is a walking mass destruction of force to be reckoned with. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's supposed to be very strong. He's supposed to tear stuff up. He's supposed to go into battle and just hurt people and stuff. And he's not like that in the movie and stuff. In fact, I don't even recall him having his super strength at all, which is really odd. And it's because they didn't want to show that something that could be perceived as like violent. Also, he's not really that angry in the movie. In the animated movie, he is that evil creature he was supposed to be. It's only the realization he's on an island surrounded by his weakness, water and everything, that kind of calms him down a little bit. Also, he doesn't have no big buildings to destroy. His purpose is no more. So what is he to do? So he's hanging around this little girl in the animated movie. He didn't really want to hang around, but he learned to like love her and everything and want to protect her because he starts to become very humanistic. Here, he's not really evil. Like he shows up and he's mostly just kind of like Bart Simpson. He's destructive. Sorry about that, my battery died. But he's kind of like Bart Simpson. He's just kind of reckless. Um, he likes to do like childish angst, pull pranks type things. Like he's just having fun in a destructive kind of way. Same thing with Lilo. Where is her angry side at? Like we get her a little bit frustrated, like when she screams into the pillow and she pushes Nani out the room. But every time we see her angry side, we only see the back of her. It's like Disney didn't want to show the front of her being angry and shouting at people and stuff. Like, the thing about Lilo is that Lilo, for the most part, is a bad little girl. She doesn't do what you tell her to do. She's very misunderstood. See, she has no friends. She's a very strange and weird little girl. And because of that, people treat her badly and pick on her. And she doesn't like it and she will defend herself. She doesn't like the idea of people staring at her, taking her picture, um, making fun of her and stuff, and it causes her to be angry. Also, she has a short attention span, which gets her into a lot of trouble and everything. And she's also rude to people, and like she will not listen to like an authority figure and stuff. She's an angry little girl because she's sad her parents are gone. And like she doesn't want her sister bossing her around like her mom because she doesn't want her mom to be replaced because her mom is dead and everything. So she has all this like pent up anger in her. But instead in the live action, it's more like she's instead of being rude, she's sassy and everything. Like when she says she's reading Bubbles like a book, which was funny by the way. She's sassy, not rude. When she fought with Myrtle, she just pushed her down and didn't pound her face in and everything. When she got angry at Stitch, she was more hurt that he used her and wasn't angry that she ruined everything for her family. And for the most part, she doesn't act like she hates her sister like at all. And that's the thing about like Lilo and Nani. They're family and they're made to love each other, but deep down, I always got the feeling in the animated movie they can't stand one another because they are sisters and siblings fight. But Nani also has to play the role of mother. Nani is sick and tired of Lilo always messing everything up, and Nani is extremely stressed out. And in this movie, you do get her stressed out and you do see her struggle, but you don't really see her angry. She doesn't even get angry at Stitch and everything. Like in the big climax, like she did in the original and stuff. She doesn't hit him over the head with a stick because it's too violent and everything. She doesn't question he could be some type of alien. Because the thing about Nani, she's smarter than you think. She realizes there's something weird going on with Stitch in the animated movie. She doesn't want to keep him, but he makes Lilo happy, and that's all she needs. Plus, she needs somebody to watch Lilo, and that is Stitch. Here, she doesn't assume nothing about him. She just thinks he's this weird looking thing. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the thing I missed in this movie. There's no big strong rage of like emotion. These are like three extremely unhappy beings in the animated movie, and you don't get that sense because Disney tries to make it fluffy for the little kids and everything. And that really pisses me off. It reminds me of the live action Netflix Avatar The Last Airbender and everything. In that movie, we didn't get no huge thing of emotion. We didn't get people really shouting at each other. And it's like, why not? That's part of what made Avatar The Last Airbender what it was, the big range of emotion and stuff. And it just wasn't like that. Now, there's some other things that they changed around here too, kind of like who's supposed to rescue who. They kind of reversed the gender roles on that. Like in the animated movie, it is Stitch that saves Lilo in the spaceship as Gantu has her in there and everything. It's now reversed where Lilo rescues him. I don't mind that change that much because it's not that like big of a drastic change because the simple fact it is called Lilo and Stitch. Now I know people had a problem with that in The Little Mermaid because it's supposed to be the prince who's supposed to save the day, but now instead it is the Little Mermaid who saves the day. I'm okay with that too because it's the Little Mermaid's movie. It is not the princess movie. So I'm totally okay with her saving the day and everything. So I'm okay with Lilo saving Stitch and vice versa. Because in the animated movie, it's because not only does Stitch save Lilo, but she returns the favor. When the Grand Councilwoman is supposed to collect Stitch and everything, Lilo comes in with her papers showing that she paid for Stitch. He's her property. You can't take him because that'll be like against the law and everything. So she, in sense, saved him from being taken away. In the movie, he saves himself by letting the Grand Council lady know, hey, this is my name, this is my family, blah, 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 blah. Yes, that same dialogue is in the animated movie, but it's restructured now. No longer does Lilo pay for him and everything. Now he just saves himself. Be like, look, I'm a person, an individual, and you can't take me from them and stuff. So I don't mind that switch. However, it's the Nani and David switcheroo that really bugs me and everything. David doesn't act like David in this movie, and if he wasn't gonna do the David stuff, there's no point in having him be in a movie. Yes, he twirls around the sticks and the flames and everything. He still does that, but the whole Nani and David thing, I don't really get the chemistry between these two. Like they're supposed to crush on each other. In the animated movie, he is having a huge crush on her. In the live action movie, not so much. And it's kind of like a one-sided crush in both movies, but we know for a fact that Nani likes his butt. I don't think they say that in the live action movie. But like with that scene and everything, David is Nani's hero. Nani and Lilo don't have a car in the animated movie. He, like, when she's struggling to find a job and it's very far away, he offers to take her. He's like her knight in shiny armor. And everything's going to be better until the aliens start to mess things up and Lilo gets taken away from Nani and everything. But he essentially helped her out and everything. He's always trying to help her out. Not only that, but he saves Stitch when Stitch drowned in the beach scene when Jamba messed everything up. It was David that did that, you know what I'm saying? Now, David doesn't do David stuff. Now, the person who helps out Nani and like Lilo is his aunt Titi. Is that her name? I can't remember. But it's his aunt that does all that. It's the aunt that adopts, like, not buys like Stitch. It's the aunt that does this and does that and does this. So she took all that role away from him. Not only that, but Nani can drive on her own because they have a car, which I will explain now why that is. Because they changed something in the movie. I remember I made a video about that, but I didn't know the implications because I hadn't seen the movie yet. But anyways, then there is the whole saving Stitch thing. I forget who saved Stitch the first time he drowns. He might have saved himself, I'm not sure. But the second time, it's supposed to be David. After the spaceship crashes in the water, David is supposed to go back and forth on his surfboard, rescuing everybody. And he has to rescue Lilo, Stitch, and Gantu. And Gantu is a giant. Gantu is not in this movie. Instead, it's Nani that saves Stitch, and she saves him in the most unrealistic way. Stitch has a weakness to water. His density gets very, very heavy. He's basically like a bowling ball or an anvil in water. Which the first movie, the anime movie, didn't really specify that much, but in this movie, I'm glad they did. Lilo tries to save Stitch, but she can't. So now it's Nani. but she can't quite pick him up and swim with him. So instead, she's at the bottom of the ocean. I don't know how deep it is, but she's at the bottom of the floor of the ocean, and she runs with him carrying him in her arms. She's holding her breath, and she's just jogging underwater and everything. And all I could think was, I don't believe for a second that can happen. I don't believe for a second you can go to the bottom of the ocean and just run a marathon and everything to get back to shore. I don't believe you can hold your breath underwater for that long. I just don't believe it. So now it's Nani that saves Stitch from drowning instead of David. And it's like, why? Like, the thing about the animated movie, they had to give David something to do other than just being a love interest. Now David doesn't serve a purpose because everybody else does what David does in the animated movie. So it was really pointless in having him in the movie. Also, I don't believe Lilo was able to hold her breath underwater for that long too, while Shrapnel is on top of her body. Come on now, they ain't Superwoman. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that's possible and everything. Um, but yeah, it's just little things here and there, like, they change, and I don't understand the reversal role on that. Don't worry, I am gonna get into everything in this movie, like the whole Pleakley not wearing a dress thing, Gantu, who was a huge disappointment by the actor who played him. I will say this. I am happy that Amy Lee had a big role in this movie because she voiced a minor character in the animated movie, but she was in the television series. She's the little flower shop lady from the animated movie. I'm also happy to see Tia Carrera in this movie. I wish she would have had a bigger role, but a minor, medium-sized role is good enough. Because I'm a huge fan of both those women and everything, and they are criminally underrated, in my opinion. I forget the actor who played the original David, but he had a minor role in this movie, and it was cool to get to see him again. And one thing I'm very impressed about is how much so many of these characters sound like they're animated characters. The live action Nani kind of sounds like animated Nani a little bit. The new Agent Cobra Bubbles, he sounds like the original. I don't know if he's played by them. I gotta go look that up. But he doesn't look like the original. Um, the little girl they found to play Lilo looks just like Lilo in the animated movie. However, she ain't wearing her dress. I don't think not once, and I mean not once, does she ever wear her iconic red dress with the white flowers on it. Instead, she's just wearing regular clothes, mostly overalls, shorts, a shirt, that's about it. But she's not wearing her iconic dress. Why make the promo picture have her wear this, which looks like AI and everything? Why have her wear this if you're not going to have her wear it not once in the movie? That is so weird. But they had her wear it for the premiere of Moana 2 and everything. So why have her wear it for that if you ain't gonna have her wear it in the movie? Now, the aliens, Pleakley and Jumba, they don't look like each other. They don't sound the way they're supposed to sound. I'm very disappointed in that. And I'll get into that a little bit later. Also, this is the original David for the live action movie. He got fired before the movie ever started because they found old tweets of him being racist. Yeah, that will get you. Now, there's also even more controversy with this movie. That's just a minor one that people forgot. There's another controversy with the whole colorism thing, with the whole Nani actress and stuff. So, the movie got accused of colorism and whitewashing. So basically, the original David from like the live action movie, people were saying he was too light skinned and stuff like that. But the actress who plays live action Nani, her name is Sydney, and I cannot pronounce her last name. You know what's interesting? The animated voice actress of Nani, Tia Carrera, she played a character called Sydney Fox for 3 seasons on the show I reviewed called Relic Hunter. So that's kind of funny. The live action one is named Sydney. The animated one played a person named Sydney. They was like destined, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, there was colorism when it came to her. See, she's a new and upcoming actress, and people discovered she's not fully Hawaiian. So she was born in Hawaii, and I think she was born in the area in which they film. But her mom is actually white, and her dad is half Filipino and half Hawaiian. So she has about like one third of like Hawaiian in her and stuff. And that did not set well with a lot of people and stuff. Because of the simple fact, Nani and Lilo are very, very dark skinned and everything. And so people was like, well, people were like, this is typical Hollywood casting a lighter skinned actress, casting a person of mixed race and stuff like that, instead of portraying the person that's actually being portrayed. And I've seen pictures of her, light skin, dark skin, red hair, dark brown hair. And I hate that this like keeps happening in Hollywood because it's kind of like for her, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. Like this is probably the biggest project she's ever been in. However, Nani is intended to be dark skinned and Hawaiian and stuff. So they really should have went with a more dark skin and actual like either full Hawaiian or like half Hawaiian. Because Hawaiian people are Polynesian people, native Hawaiian people are Polynesian. And now they're labeled as like Pacific Islander and stuff like that. But there's a lot of people who are born in Hawaii, that's their nation and stuff, but they're like not actually like Polynesian. Like there's a lot of Asian people who live in Hawaii and stuff like that. Speaking of which, see, it's interesting because people had a problem with her because of her race, because she doesn't have that much Hawaiian in her, but they didn't get mad at these two actresses, Tia Carrera and Amy Hill. Neither one of them has Hawaiian in them. Now, Tia, however, whose real name is actually not Tia, I just now found out. But like, she was actually born in Hawaii. So she's a native, a resident of like, that state. But she's not Hawaiian. She is actually Chinese and Filipino, I believe. But she doesn't have a lick of like Polynesian in her. Now, as for Amy, on the other hand, Amy was never born in Hawaii, and Amy is actually Finnish. I think that's how you say it. Finnish, and like, Japanese. Now, Finnish people are just basically white looking with a little bit of oliveness to their skin. But yeah, she has no trace of Hawaiian in her. In fact, many years ago, she did a movie, a Hawaiian movie, but she got fired because she couldn't pull off a Hawaiian accent. And so, but when you look at these two, many people can, assume that they might be Hawaiian and stuff, you know what I'm saying? Or at least Polynesian or some type of Pacific Islander because of how their skin tone look and everything. And but they don't have a trace of it in them, despite, Tia being like born there and stuff. But nobody complained about them. I mean, at least the Sydney girl has a little bit in her. Now, Jason Lee Scott, the original voice actor for David, he is actually half Hawaiian and everything. I forget the other half that he is. He might be Filipino or something. I can't remember. If it's not that, then it's Chinese. And so, like, yeah, when it comes to actual Hawaiian people, the only ones that are really Hawaiian is Jason, the actress who plays Lilo, who's half, and the dude who's the new live action David. But the controversy doesn't stop there. Sadly, a part of where they were supposed to film caught on fire. First degree arson, I believe, that was being investigated, and they lost a lot of their costumes and stuff. Well, controversy doesn't stop there either because hotels. Okay, so when it comes to hotels, right? Tourism, that's been both a blessing and a curse to the people of Hawaii. It's a blessing because it brings in money and jobs. It's a curse because a lot of the people who live there are tired of the tourism. They're tired of the pollution. They're tired of the crowded people. They're tired of their like homes and trees and stuff being demolished and whatever just to make these like hotels and resorts and everything for a bunch of tourists. And it's like a major problem. And here comes Disney shoving the hotel tourist route and resorts in like the movie's face. So there's a brand new scene in the movie where it's like a wedding scene. And with the wedding scene, Stitch, disrupts the wedding. And it's at like a big fancy hotel. Now, Disney owns a lot of big fancy hotels. And I think they own a whole bunch of them in like Hawaii and stuff. And not only that, but they even have Nani, a native Hawaiian, trying to get a job and working at a hotel when this is something that a lot of the people who live there just do not like. Why would they add that there? Speaking of tourism, where are all the like white tourists and all the other race tourists and everything? It's weird. The only tourists I see are Asian people, which a lot of Asian people actually live in Hawaii, especially Japanese people, and also some Filipino people. But there was also tons of Hawaiian tourists. Why would a bunch of Hawaiian people take vacation in Hawaii? Okay, yeah, not every Hawaiian person is born in Hawaii. Some are born in other places. Okay, fine. But that's just weird to see a bunch of Hawaiian tourists in Hawaii and everything. And like, where are all the other races? Because a lot of white people tour and take vacations in Hawaii. In fact, one of the things that blinking you'll miss a thing in the animated movie are like Lilo taking pictures of white tourists and posting them on like her wall. See, the whole thing with Lilo isn't just so she can take pictures of random people, but she takes pictures of people to kind of get under their skin a little bit. See, she doesn't like it when the tourists come to Hawaii and just like stare at her because she's a little Hawaiian girl and they've never seen nobody look like that. They stare and that gets on her nerves. So to get at them back, she takes their pictures to let them know how it feels and everything. That's a big part of who Lilo is, and they completely left that out just so she can take pictures of Hawaiian tourists and pictures of her family. Like the ice cream guy. The ice cream guy, like, he's supposed to be like a sunburnt white dude who didn't put like no sunscreen on, and he's eating ice cream. He is now replaced by a native Hawaiian. Also, oh man, this was tragic. So after the movie came out, the guy who plays the new ice cream guy, David, I forget the middle part of his name. Something Kill. Can you Bell? He passed away and everything. Like, that was sad. You know what I'm saying? Like, he did some acting here and there and some voiceover work where he would like redub stuff, but that was just sad to hear he died. A massive controversy in this movie is the dreaded foster care system. Ah, yes, the whole foster care thing. One of the most debated things that's still getting debated till this day. So, when it comes to the foster system in Hawaii, It's not very good. Tons of little Hawaiian kids are like placed in the foster system and apparently are getting like overrun and everything. And so, like, it's a major, major, major issue. Now, of course, in the original animated movie, the foster care people, was coming to take Lilo if Nani could not take care of her. In fact, they gave her chance after chance after chance, and she failed. And they literally take Lilo with Nani like being hysterical and having almost like a nervous breakdown and everything. In the movie, they still give her chance after chance, but then they give her the option of what does she want to do with Lilo, because they're gonna take her anyway. Personally, I like the whole animated thing where they literally just ripped her from like the house and Nani like, had a nervous breakdown. That was more emotional and impactful, but of course this movie's not allowed to show emotion. And so like but when it comes to that of the actual foster system, in both movies, Nani struggles to take care of Lilo. She struggles to find a job. And, Lilo gets on her nerves. But deep down inside, just like in both movies, she loves Lilo. In the animated movie, Nani would never, ever, ever give up Lilo. That is the last bit of family she has left because her parents got murdered. And so she would do anything to keep Lilo, even if it has to like fight like an alien, she will do it. You know what I'm saying? Like she will literally do anything. After Lilo is saved and Stitch is saved and everything, they become a bigger family because they take in Jamba and Pleakley. Also, Agent Bubbles or Cobra, whatever his name is, he comes in to like make sure they're okay and have everything and stuff like that. So their family like literally just like evolved into something much, much, much bigger. And then the whole cousins came in, the experiment cousins, and their family got even bigger. Stitch became like a brother or like a cousin. Jamba and it became kind of like a father. Pleaky's kind of like, an uncle. And David eventually becomes kind of like, Nani's kind of like boyfriend husband type person. So they made a makeshift family, you know what I'm saying? The whole Ohana thing, like this movie literally taught us what that word meant. It literally just means family and stuff. But the movie had a different message at the end. It went a completely different route. Here, Nani is contemplating giving Lilo up. And when the grandma, TT or whatever her name is, played by Amy Hill, lets her know that, look, man, y'all are like family to us and everything. We will take Lilo in, and that way you can go to college to get like an education and get a better job, and then you can take her back and everything. And that's what Nani does. Nani becomes a marine biologist. That's her major, which is weird because Nani does not show that she's into marine biology whatsoever in the entirety of the movie. So the fact that she's a marine biologist major is just kind of odd. What's even stranger is that they are literally in Hawaii. What better place to learn about marine biology than Hawaii? But no, she's going to go to someplace else in the US. I think LA or something like that. And so a lot of fans were really upset about this. Like, how could she give her up like that? Now, to be fair, she has Jumba's teleportation gun. And so she can literally pop in and pop out anytime she wants to, which she does at the end of the movie. She portals back in to hang out with Lilo and they're having a good time. But then when Agent Bubbles is there, kind of being like a husband figure to that of the auntie or grandma, whoever she is, she hides underneath the covers. And I'm all like, why is she hiding for? Like, wouldn't it be okay if they see her unless she's not supposed to be there because she literally gave up the rights? So that's kind of odd and weird, and they have to explain that now in the second movie. Now, a lot of people, like I said before, are furious because they're all like, how can she give up her sister? This and that. That's not how the animated movie is. The animated movie ended on such a more touching kind of note. And so a lot of people are pissed. However, some native Hawaiian people say, yo, this is totally okay and everything because the next door neighbor is like a family member. And so is David. And they took her in. And so, that's just how their culture is. Now, I knew a woman who moved to Hawaii. She's white. And she told me over there, people are extremely friendly and everything. You need a place to stay, a complete stranger will just literally let you stay there. I don't know how true that is, but I'm just going to go by her word and everything. Like, they are very open, connected. Like, like everybody's like, part of like a community over there and stuff. So that's why some people say online that this is totally, totally okay. If Native Hawaiians said that this is totally okay and that's their thing, who are we really to argue with? You know what I'm saying? However, I still prefer the animated movie a whole lot better. I like the idea of Nani trying to stay as close as possible to her sister, you know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. Plus, how does she know she's gonna get like past college or get a good job? You can go to college and you can pass, but I don't mean you're gonna get a job afterwards and stuff. And some people brought up a really interesting thing, like the TT lady. She's older, much older, you can tell, but we can see she does not work. She must like collect Social Security or like maybe has an inheritance. She has an ATV for crying out loud. And so a lot of people are just kind of like, well, she didn't have to like take in Lilo. She literally could have helped them out with like the bills and food and groceries and stuff like that. Or Nani and all them could have lived under the same house or something like that. Or they could actually find Nani an actual job. And just keep Lilo and Stitch at home and everything so they don't mess everything up. So, that's for you to decide if you like this new ending or not. Now, when it comes to the CGI and like the aliens, they actually look pretty good, man. Like you can't like deny it. Yes, the space scene does look a little cartoony, computer generated, but the aliens look just like identical to how they are in the animated movie. However, there's something strange with their eyes. Their facial expressions, they have that, they emote. But there's something lifeless about their eyes. Their eyes never have no emotion in them, no expression. It's like a blank slate. Like, look at the cartoon Lilo, I mean, not Lilo, but Stitch on like the left and the live action one on the right. You see emotion in his eyes, but in the live action one, you don't. I've seen more expression in a Power Rangers helmet than I did in these aliens. Speaking of aliens, our next controversy. There's no Gantu, none whatsoever. Originally, he was in the script of the movie, but they had to take him out because somebody, I forget who, decided, you know what, it'll be more personal if Jamba is the true villain. No, it's not. It sucks that he's the true villain. We needed Gantu because when you look at the animated movie, Jumba is just a mad scientist who's a little kooky in the head, and he just wants his experiment back, and he'll take them back by any means. But he just turns over a new leaf like at the drop of like a needle and everything. And the real true villain of the movie is Gantu, but Gantu doesn't show up that much. He's in the early beginning and at the very end and everything. They could have got a guy in a suit and just had him on a green screen, but they had a streaming budget. Originally, this was supposed to go to Disney Plus, but they decided to bring it on over to the theaters. Speaking of aliens and their CGI, there are two I do not like. And that is Jamba and Pleakley. Their CGI forms look horrible for some reason. I don't get it. Like Jumba just looks terrible and stuff. I mean, he looks terrible. He doesn't even look like the animated version. And Pleakley, this is something weird and pudgy about his like head and body. He just looks bizarre and stuff. I do not like that. I also do not like their human forms and everything. I hate this so much, but I get why they did this. There are two reasons. One, it will look pretty ridiculous if these aliens are dressed like people in just clothes and walk around. Like you can so tell that's an alien and stuff. But they did it in Ninja Turtles, a live action movie, and that worked out somehow. So you have to suspend your disbelief. Plus, you want me to believe that two people can survive underwater for like so many minutes and jog underneath water while holding something that's as heavy as an anvil? Then you can give me two aliens dressed in clothes and everything. Now, another reason why they did this was a budget reason. They just didn't have the money. Now, one gripe I have is Zachary Galifianakis, I think that's his name, who played Jumba. The movie is gonna get a sequel. Please recast him as man. Like recast him, fire him, recast him, get rid of him. This man gave no effort in this movie. He didn't even try to alter his voice to sound like Jumba. He just acted like himself, and that got on my freaking nerves. He didn't even really give no expression. It's almost like he didn't want to be there, and I don't want him to be there. So please fire this dude and recast somebody. Personally, John Rhys Davies. Now, if you're familiar with this dude, his voice actually sounds like Jumba and everything. Yes, he's British and Jumba is Russian, well, a Russian accent. But when you hear this man talk, it's very similar. And this man knows how to act. He can act live action and he can voice act. Like he is like a true legend and everything. And then there is Pleakley. Oh, the controversy with this. I've already made a video about this. So, if you know anything about Pleakley, and I'm just going by the animated movie, the first one, not nothing else, because that's the only thing I know him from. First and foremost, he's not as stupid as he is in this live action movie. Now, in the animated movie, he appears to be dumb because he's looking at a kid's toy to explain what animals and people and everything else is like on Earth. This is only because these aliens were on Earth decades ago, and the only technology they could find was like a little kid's toy, so they assumed that was like advanced technology. So they don't know. So that's the reason why he's so oblivious. Other than that, he is strictly by the books and everything. But in the movie, they made him slap happy stupid and everything for comedic relief. And I do not like that. Also, he does not get his big scene at the end of the climax where he runs into the house, saves Lilo before the house like caves in and everything. Somehow in the live action movie, Lilo just escapes on her own, off screen, and she sneaks aboard like the spaceship. But how? The house literally crumbled within seconds. She didn't have the portal gun. Somehow she just miraculously ran out real fast and somehow got onto the ship. Then there is the biggest controversy of them all when it comes to that Pleakley. He's not dressing in drag. Disney made a bold decision decades ago, over 20 years ago, when they put this man alien in women's drag. Now, the reason why he dresses in drag, and this is only by the animated movie, because he needed a disguise. For whatever reason, he chose to dress like a woman. I guess it's to appear as Jumba's like wife or girlfriend and everything. And so in the animated show, he goes from dressing like a dude to dressing like a woman. Like he changes. He is a cross dresser and everything. The director said, "Hey, look, everybody, I tried to put him in a dress, but they would not let me." He's talking about Disney. Disney did not want that, which is odd because they did it over 20 years ago. What could be the reason as to why they didn't want this to happen? Oh, that's right, toxic people. So, in case you've been living under a rock, then you would know that Disney has been under attack for about, the past 3 years now. Originally, they got attacked by toxic white guys online, YouTube, Twitter, this and that. You know, the grifters, the people who complain about everything, complain about wokeness, complain about race swapping and all this other stuff. Somehow that went on over to like super religious people and conservatives. But it also went to the dude in Florida, that Ron DeSantis guy, whatever his name is, DeSantis. He went to war with Disney, literally. Trying his best to be president and trying to make people happy, and it backfired. He caved and had to fold because that dude literally went on an attack on Disney World and everything. And it did not pay off. Well, of course, after all that happened, then like religious people got involved and conservatives got involved. So basically, they are the major haters of Disney right now. They're saying Disney is trying to brainwash their kids by adding LGBT elements into the movie, like Snoop Dogg talking about that tiny little kiss scene between two women and everything. Um, they don't like it when Disney movies talk about culture, like, or Pixar for that matter, like Turning Red, that Asian movie. I can't think of the Luca or something like that. That what was that? Like an Italian movie with mermaids and stuff. And what is it called? Finding Soul, or is it called just Soul? The black movie and everything. Oh no, we can't learn about other races and their culture and blah 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 blah. Oh no, get these LGBT people out our movie. So basically, they're all like, you're trying to like brainwash our kids. It's the stupidest argument ever. So because of that, Pleakley could not wear a dress, but the director tried to make up for it somehow, and he made up for it in a very odd kind of way. He made up for it he still put Pleakley in one female outfit, the one that he's wearing right here. It's a girl blouse, it's a girl like plaid pants or whatever, and the hairstyle's kind of girly and everything. So he couldn't put him in full like drag in a dress, so he just put him in girls' clothes, trying to give the fans something. But he went an extra step, literally. So when you see Pleakley walk, he's walking like a woman, like a very sachet type woman and everything. He in a very flamboyant, almost gay kind of way and everything, like very, very girly and stuff, you know? And in this entire movie, I noticed something about Pleakley. He's very flamboyant and he comes off as being gay and everything, like very stereotypical gay, like a straight man playing a gay person and stuff. Like with the facial expressions, the smile, the way he shakes his hips when he walks and everything is very, very flamboyant. And they tried to make the excuse of saying, oh, okay, since he took on human form, he's not used to walking with two legs. So he's like walking with that sachet. But then what about Jumba? Jumba is doing the same thing, but actually falling over. Jumba already has two legs, so he should be used to walking with two legs. So that excuse is not working. I truly believe they tried to make Pleakley come off as being like gay. And that's not what a drag person is. Like, yes, there are some drags that are gay, and there's a whole bunch that are not. So to say those two are like the same is kind of weird. So it's like they couldn't have one form of the LGBT, so they substituted for like a completely other. Now, one thing I noticed in the promotional art was that I didn't see Lilo or Nani wearing like their like a bikini when they're out at the beach. Instead, they're wearing, I guess you can call this surf gear or something like that. I don't know really what you call it. I'm not a surfer. And I'm totally okay with this. Like I saw like one person bringing this up on Reddit. And one main reason, well, there's two main reasons why they probably did this. One, they don't want to sexualize two of their female characters, especially that of a little girl, because there are some people in this world who feel, especially conservatives, who feel like, beach wear is very sexualized and everything. And the second reason is because it's not a normal day at the beach for them. Nani is actually at work teaching people how to surf, and Lilo is there. But then I did notice that Lilo, every time she's at the beach or swimming or whatever, she's wearing like this type of outfit. And like I said before, it's probably because of the first reason they don't want to like sexualize that of a little girl and everything. And I've seen people on Reddit complain about this in a very gross and nasty kind of way, and it's just kind of like, see, this is why they did this and everything. Yeah, it's unrealistic to have a day at the find the beach and wearing an outfit like this, but for Nani, she's at work. As for Lilo, yeah, that don't make no sense, but it's because of all the gross nasty people out there. Now, the other controversy, and this is probably the last one that I can think of, is the car. So, Nani and Lilo do not have a car. I don't know how they get around. Maybe they hoof it, or maybe they get a ride with somebody else. The reason for it is because of how their parents died. One night, I think it was raining, and their parents got killed in a car accident. Because of this, the symbolism that you see in the first movie is they have no car. And but they will ride in another car and everything. It's just they don't have one of their own. So when this movie started, Nani has a car and she's driving and everything's fine. There's no PTSD, no nothing like that. Then she puts Lilo in the back of the truck, which is dangerous, and she drives off. Then in that famous scene in the animated movie where Stitch steals Myrtle's like bicycle or tricycle and takes off with it with Lilo to explore the country and everything. Well, not the country, but like the state, or not the state, but like the city. They changed it to where now he steals like a little pink car and they go cruising in that. And Lilo's completely fine. The reason for this is that they never explain in the live action movie how the parents died, therefore giving Nani the ability to have a car and drive around. I do not know why they did this. It's like they don't want to have any type of like emotion or symbolism of emotion from like the animated movie for some bizarre reason. Okay, so very quickly, the movie's about an alien named Stitch. He's, I think, 626, I think, or 616, something like that. I can't remember. But he's an experiment. He's supposed to be really dangerous. He's created by Jumba, and he escapes. He heads to Earth. And so him and Pleakley have to go after him. Lilo is a misunderstood girl who befriends him thinking he's a dog, and she just loves him to death. And so basically, Pleakley and Jumba are like hunting him down, and he's trying to do everything he can to escape, using Lilo as kind of like a shield and everything, because they know Pleakley will not harm a human. So basically, a lot of like crazy stuff happens with Nani losing her job and this and that. Lilo and Stitch have a bunch of fun together, and then Jamba decides, hey, he's gonna do things his way and try to kidnap that of Stitch, turning him into 627, which is Liron, I think that's his name, and from that other animated movie and stuff like that. As I already told you, Lilo's now in foster system with the next door neighbor, and Nani's in college. Now, I will go through character bios. I'm not going to go through everybody in the movie because it's kind of pointless. I'll just do, let's see. I'll do Lilo. I'll do Stitch. I might do Nani. I don't know. I might not. I'll do Jumba. I probably won't do Pleakley because, like I already pretty much mentioned him. I might do Bubbles and everything, Cobra Bubbles, because I haven't really talked about him, and that will probably be it. Okay, so Agent Cobra Bubbles, played by that of Courtney B. Vance. In the original cartoon, Agent Bubbles was a former CIA agent who became that of, like, a foster care service worker type person. He was intimidating, he was tough. You was meant to be scared of him, but you was also meant to, like, wonder if he had a hidden agenda, because we didn't know he was former CIA. There was just something off about him that made you scream. He had some type of, like, militant or, like, um police type, like, background and stuff, something like that. And so it was a huge shocker to find out that he's former CIA and that he helped with, like, an alien cover up and everything. And he helped, like, made the aliens leave Earth because of the whole mosquito thing, and it was just, like, hilarious. It was a nice little funny thing. In this version, as we all know, he's literally just a CIA agent. The whole service worker thing went to Tia Carrera's character. And I guess, yeah, the change probably had to be made because it's kind of like, people would have saw that coming a mile away. So there's no way to get over that. However, this dude does not act like Cobra Bubbles whatsoever. He's not mean. He's not intimidating. He's not scary. He's not tough. He's literally just a regular guy, and a nice one at that. Slightly dopey, but for the most part, a nice guy. So I don't understand why he has to have, like, the tattoo of his name on his knuckles to make him seem, like, intimidating, because he's not. From a mile away, Lilo could tell there was something weird with him. It's funny. I've said before, Stitch doesn't really act like Stitch. He's not super strong and this and that. He's not even super smart. It's like Lilo is smarter than him in this movie. But yeah, he does help out just like he does in the animated movie. And he almost becomes like a caretaker father figure to that of Lilo when she's living with the neighbor next door. Because he's there with them watching TV and he's upset thinking Lilo's, like, up when she should have been asleep. And it's just kind of like, is him and the neighbor now dating or something? I still prefer the animated version. However, Courtney, as good of an actor as he is, and he sounds like Cobra Bubbles and everything, he doesn't look like him. One of these two guys from The Walking Dead should have played him. Like, this dude is jacked with muscles and everything, and the other dude is really large. They should have played him for sure. Jumba, I do not like this version of Jumba whatsoever. I don't like the way he looks. I don't like the actor who plays him. I just don't like him, and I hate how they made him the villain. See, the original Jumba is a mad scientist with some edge to him. Like, he's a little bit aggressive. Like, he's just crazy in the head because he is a mad scientist. He created this weapon of mass destruction, and he takes pleasure in that, thinking it's hilarious and everything. And, he has to go to prison for it and everything. And then he realizes that Stitch got away, and he knew he would. And so he's willing to help, capture him. But he's willing to go to the extreme mile of, like, a blaster and shoot, like, Stitch and everything. But he knows Stitch won't die. but he wants to reprogram him and make him look differently and stuff like that, more like him. But what we did not know in that first movie, there are tons of other experiments, and there's another one who looks just like Stitch but is red. And so, like, the thing I never liked about him in the animated movie was how he turned good so fast. Like, we see him aggressive, we see him shooting around and everything with the blaster. And then at the drop of a hat, he just turns nice. And that's always weirded me out. Even more so, the Grand Councilwoman just left him on Earth and he's like, dangerous and stuff. But I guess since the technology is primitive, she figured he won't be able to do nothing. But he brought, like, with some alien tech with him to help rebuild Nani's house and everything. I guess the reason why he turned so good is because he's not evil, he's just mad, and he really does care for Stitch. Like, that's why he wants to reprogram him and everything. It's his experiment. He's literally his father and everything. But in the movie, he's just kind of okay. He's laid back a little bit. He's a little nice. He's a little aggressive. He's not really so much mad. And then all of a sudden, he's just like villainous. But when he's villainous, he's still a nice, soft-spoken kind of guy. And it's just kind of odd and doesn't make much sense, more so than that of the animated one. And one of the things that doesn't make no sense is because Disney doesn't want no violence, they gave him a portal gun. And all I could ever think about, yes, the portal stuff was funny. Like, it was really funny. But what was the purpose of him bringing it? He brought dart guns with him. So he planned on tranquilizing the dude. But what was he going to do with the portal gun? We've seen how the portal gun has to work. You literally have to point where you want to, like, actually, you know what? How does that portal gun work? Because, okay, originally when we saw Stitch using it and everything, and Jamba, you literally have to shoot it within the same distance of where you're at. In one location and then another. And when you go through one portal, you end up on the other end. So when Stitch did that on the floor and the ceiling, he just kept going back and forth, back and forth. And then the whole thing completely with, like, when he was down in, like, I guess the basement or whatever. But how did Nani teleport all the way from college in LA to, like, Hawaii and everything? She wasn't within distance or nothing like that. I guess you can set it to wherever you want to go, or you think about it. Because I was thinking, if he portals Stitch, where's Stitch going to end up at? I guess since Nani used it to go to however far a distance she wants, I guess he was going to send Stitch back to, like, the ship. But I would have preferred, having the actual blaster, because that's how Stitch, fought against him and everything in the animated movie when they put it inside Scrump and stuff and made it explode. Stitch, I am shocked and surprised at how much they changed, like, Stitch. Stitch is literally supposed to be a weapon of mass destruction. He is supposed to, like, destroy big cities and, like, be so strong he can beat up tons of people and super quick, and his brain is that of a supercomputer. However, the one we got in live action is just this cute, cuddly little thing who is just, like, reckless and everything. He loves to just, like, wreak havoc, but it's mostly just him tossing stuff around and stuff like that. He doesn't appear super strong. He doesn't necessarily appear super smart either. Like, the dog had to remind him of, like, his antennas and stuff. And not only that, but he kept trying to talk to the dog, and he should have realized from, like, a couple of seconds the dog can't, like, talk back to him and stuff. And so not only that, but it's just kind of like, when he's destroying things left and right, it's not in a evil kind of way. It's more of a he's having fun and you can't tell him, like, to stop and everything kind of way, like a little brat. And the thing about the animated movie is that you don't know what you're gonna get with Stitch in that first movie. Like he starts off as evil and everything. He's rude, he's nasty, and he wants to conquer. He tried to shoot a little frog in the beginning of the movie and got ran over by a car. And it's with the help of Lilo, he turns good, but it took him a long time to turn good. Even when he was with her in his on her place, you thought for a second he's gonna hurt her because of how angry he is, and you don't necessarily get that here. And it really takes away from who Stitch is. Now, the reason why they did this is because one, they don't want violence, and two, Stitch is probably their number one merch seller. There's no way in the world they're gonna want to ruin his image. It's kind of like John Cena. John Cena started off as like a face, he quickly turned into a heel, and then he quickly turned into a face for about 20 years, and it took him 20 years to turn into a heel again. And so they don't want to ruin that reputation and everything of Stitch, which really robs him of who he is. I've said it before, he is the Terminator, he is Frankenstein's monster. And just like with both of those two, they was on a path of destruction until they discovered their humanity. And the way Stitch learns humanity, they robbed him of some good moments from the animated movie. It is Lilo who rehabilitates him because she is forced to by Bubbles and everything. Like, seriously, he's so destructive that Bubbles ain't having that crap, and he's all like rehabilitate him and everything. And so that's what she does. She tries to teach him how to be human. And he's actually gone along with it. But then he starts to get sad and depressed because he's realizing not only is he not who he's supposed to be, he doesn't know who he is now because he's changing and everything. It's a really heartfelt, warm moment, like when you watch the original animated movie. And Stitch is literally beside himself, not knowing who he is, and then starts to contemplate with his super brain, where did I even come from? Like, he should know Jamba created him in a lab, but he's starting to forget that because he's turning into a brand new person. And as he's learning about family and seeing the ducks and learning about the ugly duckling and assuming that he is the ugly duckling and wants to know where his family is and everything, the original movie is supposed to make you emotional. It is supposed to choke you up. It's supposed to make you teary-eyed or cry. I've said this before last year when I reviewed the animated movie. Lilo and Stitch is the only animated movie from Disney that gets me choked up and gets me teary-eyed. I'm starting to get choked up just thinking about those scenes just now because that's how powerful it is. For him to be sad and I forget what he says when he looks up in the sky. He says out of family or home or something like that, because he wants to belong. He wants to know what his purpose is, as everyone else does in the world. And when he realizes he hurts Lilo's feelings and everything, because originally something happened and I forget what, but Lilo is like almost begging him to stay, talking about like, I know, like, oh no, I remember what it is. Lilo told him that I hear you crying at night, which does not happen in the live action movie. And it's just kind of like, we never seen him cry in the animated movie, but it happens off screen. And the fact that Lilo, a little girl, is hearing and seeing this, and she asks him and stuff like that, he gets like really upset and he just walks away from her as she's trying to persuade him to stay, and everything. And she realizes, oh, nobody wants to be with me and everything. She thinks it's her fault he doesn't want to be with her and stuff, that he might miss his family or something. And he literally leaves. I think he sleeps in like outside or something like that, and like near the trees and stuff. And that's when Jamba finds him and all this other stuff. And also it hurt his feelings knowing that Lilo was really pissed at him. Something happened, like an explosion or something, and no, something happened. Stitch got like wet and just went berserk or something like that. And the pitch, something happened. I think the picture of her family got ruined, and she like blamed him. Was all like, "Oh, this is all your fault." She might have shoved him, I'm not sure, but this is when Jumba comes in and tries to like, take him and all this other stuff. And then that's when she forgives him because she's scared because this giant alien is like, wrecking her house and everything. And it's even sadder when like Jamba, like when he's talking to Stitch and Stitch is all like, my family. He's all like, you don't have a family. I created you in the lab and everything. Like, that is sad. That gets you choked up. None of this crap is in the freaking live action movie, and it pisses me off. Instead, he just gets rehabilitated by getting rehabilitated. He's all like, my name is Stitch and blah, 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 and all this other crap. And it's like, they took out the good stuff that makes Stitch Stitch. And he doesn't even roll in a ball. That really got me. And he doesn't regurgitate like cake. I think he does pick his nose, but you don't see the actual booger. But then you see Lilo pick her nose because she's imitating him and stuff. But they took away that great part with Nani when he's literally in the refrigerator and he just looks at her. And she's just freaked out, realizing this is not like a dog and everything. As for the voice actor of Stitch, Chris Sanders, who voiced him many years ago, over 20 years ago, I think it was 20 years ago, and the creator of Stitch, hopefully he'll be able to come back for multiple movies because he literally said that doing Stitch voice is straining his voice and it takes him hours just to do a couple of lines. Now, one person they did not bring back is the original voice actress who played Lilo, and also Jumba and Pleakley. But Lilo, you think they would have brought her back and everything. She could have been a tourist and everything. But no, they didn't bring her back. Not sure why. I know she's retired from acting. And also a couple of years back, she got in trouble with the law. So you know how Disney is with that. But hopefully she's better now. But nobody knows what happened to her. I don't even think she gets on social media no more. But it would have been nice to see the original voice actress come back for like a cameo. And then there is Lilo herself. I gotta say, this little girl looks just like Lilo. Like, she really does. And sometimes she sounds like her. The only time she doesn't look like her is when she's wearing her hair in a ponytail. And of course the clothes that she wears, because she doesn't wear her iconic dresses and stuff. I'm not sure why they didn't want to give her her iconic dresses, but for whatever reason they just didn't. Also, she's skinny, and Lilo in the cartoon is pudgy. Like Nani, my God, those thighs could crush a person and stuff. And I gotta say, like, the actress, I knew she would be a newcomer because how many Hawaiian actresses do you really see? You know what I'm saying? But because she is new and this was her first project, it's not her only one. She now has 2 other projects. One she's already filmed and one she's filming now with Jason Momoa. And I'm just like, dude, she just started and she already got 2 new roles and stuff. That girl who plays Miss Marvel over at Disney Plus, she's new, and Miss Marvel was her first project. She's done The Marvels, and she popped up in like another movie, I think. And all she's done is just Marvel stuff. She hasn't expanded beyond Disney. And this little girl has. That's like saying something for you. You know what I'm saying? Now, because she's a little girl, like, my rule, I'm not going to comment on her acting. I think she did, though, a pretty good job for being like a newcomer and stuff. Now, this Lilo is slightly different from the animated one. Lilo in the animated movie, she is a misunderstood girl. She is also a brat. And she's also very, very weird and peculiar. Once again, basing this only on the animated movie. See, we get a sense of how peculiar she is when she's swimming and she gives a fish a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Then, as she's explaining why she's late, she says, she had to feed Pudge the fish and she had to give him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich because she was going to give him a tuna sandwich. And she can't give him a tuna sandwich because that would be an abomination and everything because he's a fish. She has all these outbursts. In the live action one, we see her give the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. She says she gives the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but she doesn't mention the tuna sandwich, and she doesn't really have no outbursts. She kind of is just there until Myrtle pisses her off, and she shoves her. They should have explained why she didn't give a tuna sandwich. We should have seen her be weird and bizarre, and the reason why nobody wants to hang out with her. Speaking of which, her doll. Scrump is Lilo's doll that she made herself. And in the animated movie, the doll is barely there, but in the show, she gets more of a backstory. Now, the thing about Scrump is that Lilo, like I said before, made it herself. Now, in the live action one, they got the belly button in the wrong spot. They got it in the chest, and it's supposed to be where the belly button is supposed to be. They couldn't even do that right. In the live action movie, Scrump is barely there in the promotional art, but it's barely in the movie. The Scrump is more in the animated movie than the live action one. What makes Scrump so important is that you get to know more about Lilo and her loneliness. Scrump is her only friend. She had to make her herself. She has a big overacting imagination. And she can't afford to buy a real doll because she's too poor. When she wants to play dollies with the other little girls in the animated movie, they don't want to play with her and say they don't have dolls as they're hiding theirs behind their back. And so when she pulls out hers, they're like, ugh, that's the ugliest thing I ever seen. When they leave, this really hurts Lilo's feelings. Because not only did they make fun of her best friend, but because of the poor raggediness of the doll, Lilo is embarrassed for being poor and she throws it on the ground and leaves only to run back, grab it, hug it, and then walk off very, very sad. She knows that, she will never have a friend. They will never accept her. And her only friend she got is like a raggedy, raggedy little doll she made herself. You don't get that in the live action movie at all. Instead, you just see the doll and that's about it. Now, when it comes to the doll itself in the animated movie, I always assumed that, this is probably based on some type of Hawaiian legend or deity or something like that. Because I don't know nothing about Hawaii. But no, it's just a little doll she made herself. In the original animated movie, they don't really go into the culture of Hawaii that much other than Ohana and everything, which the director who did Aladdin, he literally made a statement saying that, these live action Disney and cartoon Disney movies need to just tell the story and leave the messaging alone, which now he is the head of Disney Animation, so don't expect to be seeing tons of people of color and their culture and all this other stuff no more because it is behind. But Scrump is also a coping mechanism for her losing her parents. But it also shows how weird she is to make a doll and make it look like this, like some type of seaweed creature and everything. This is important because you have to know just how weird she is. The problem is live action Lilo isn't really weird. She's just bored and doesn't have nobody to play with. Other than that, she still acts like Lilo in the animated one, but she's sassier. Instead of being rude and nasty to people, she's just sassy sometimes. Also, we don't get the scene where she boards up the door with nails and plank wood and stuff like that to keep Nani out. I looked for it in the live action movie, but I didn't see it and everything. It shows you just how bratty she is and everything to do something like that. because she literally just want to be left alone and listen to Elvis music. Speaking of which, in the live action, we still get the sense that she is a fan of Elvis. She plays Elvis music and stuff like that. But in the animated movie takes it a step further. We know for a fact she's not just a fan, like she idolizes him. When she's trying to rehabilitate Stitch, she literally has a portrait of Elvis and tells Stitch Elvis is the king. The fact that she gave him his nickname tells you how much she idolizes him. The fact that she has Stitch listen to his music and tries to dance like Elvis, and she even dresses Stitch up like Elvis to impress everybody in town. This shows you that if she's going to rehabilitate somebody, she's going to do it as somebody she worships, and that is Elvis. In this movie, you don't get that and everything. And so, like, but still, you get Stitch dressing up as Elvis at the end of the movie for some bizarre reason in the end credits. And without that reference of her trying to rehabilitate him, it just feels hollow, and it just feels like, oh, they tacked that on because it's in the animated movie. Now, the thing about Lilo in this movie is that she goes along with whatever Stitch wants to do. This is now her new buddy and everything, and she's loving it. You know, she's even imitating him, like picking like her nose and stuff like that. They remind me of Joker and Harley from The Batman, the animated series from the early 2000s. When they introduced Harley, instead of her being a hench girl, is basically Joker felt pity for her and like, hey, you want to do this and everything? So they will go out and cause havoc around town and everything. So they were just having fun. This is how these two remind me of. Now, there's one thing that's really weird. They changed her to where she freed a bunch of chickens, showing that she doesn't like caged animals and stuff. But if this was true, why didn't she rescue the dogs? She's been there several times to feed them, but she's never rescued them. And just like we've said, just like I said before, and like other people, she doesn't even pay for Stitch. The lady next door does it for her and everything, taking away that very important moment at the end of the animated movie. Now, there was a sad, touching scene when Lilo found out that Stitch was merely just using her to get away from Jamba. This really hurt her because she always wanted a friend and she's just being used. Technically, this is the same thing that happened in the animated movie too, but she didn't realize that. So it was nice to have this touching scene for some type of emotional something, you know what I'm saying? Because she was really, really, really hurt by that. But I would have preferred it is she tried to convince him to stay and he walked off, and her getting really, really pissed at him and stuff like that. Other than that, you know, she pretty much just does, you know, like how she was in the animated movie. But they did take away her taking pictures of like white tourists because she doesn't like the idea of like them staring and gawking at her, which of course Disney must have panicked. They're like, oh no, we need white people to come to our resort and everything and come to our hotels. We can't offend them and everything. So robbing Lilo of that was just criminal. So, all in all, like I said before, this movie was cute and it was funny, but the animated movie was a million times better. But this is one of the better-ish, like live action Disney movies, I guess you could say, because I don't like none of them, but I actually kind of like this one, you know what I'm saying? Because all the other ones I really, really hate, but I don't hate this movie. I'm just disappointed in everything. And it's not as bad as everybody says, but it's just disappointing. It's weird that an animated movie was able to be so progressive, so emotional, and so hilarious and bright and vibrant, and this movie was not. Like, there are some scenes in like the animated movie, like the water scenes and the swimming and everything. the water's glistening. There's like the sky is almost purplish and everything. You don't get that here. They don't have the budget for that. And I get that. Also, one little correction. Yes, Nani and Lilo do share the hammock together after first they were separated in the live action one. First they was in two different hammocks and then they shared one to like sing a song and everything. I completely forgot that. Happy Asian and Pacific Islander month, everybody. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.